passe super. L'artiste, super. Encore un but sensationnel. That's a brilliant bit of follow-up play by Mahe. Oh my goodness me, what a shot.
Sagosen setter det hen! Han setter den! De er i semifinale igjen!
They say good things come in threes, and that certainly seems to be the case for the Women's Champions League, where Vipers Kristiansand, who have been knocked out of the competition, won it 3 times in a row starting in 2021. Before that, it was Gjør's turn to reign supreme with 3 wins on the trot. And this year, it's going to be 4 teams all meeting in Budapest, which has become a real occasion on the women's handball side to see who's going to take the title and the next generation of three-peats. So, Chris, my question to you is, of the 4 teams competing in the Women's Champions League Final Four, which of them is more likely to win 3 in a row?
I thought there's 1 more 3 or 2 more 3s you can throw in there. It's also Metz and Esbjerg looking to make it 3rd time lucky after 2 semi-final defeats in their 2 previous appearances in Budapest. I would say, probably Gjør again, except Gjør, Esbjerg maybe. I mean, yeah, I think it's time. We saw a hint of it 3 seasons ago with Henny Reistad scoring 22 goals. She seems like she's sticking around Esbjerg for a while. The reign of her in Budapest, I think, is could be about to begin for real.
Yeah, I think it's a different question, and we'll talk about the Women's Champions League with Björn Pazen and Danijela Vekic, who gave their opinion on the 4 teams in Budapest. But I think it's a different question from who's going to win it this year to who's more set up to win it 3 times in a row. And I think the answer to the 3 times in a row, I think Team Esbjerg are the answer to that. But will they win it this year? I don't know. I don't know. We'll have to see.
We'll find out very soon. A nice chat coming up later on with Danijela and Björn all about that. But before we go into the women's handball, there's been so much good stuff and messy stuff and just interesting stuff going on that it would be a pity not to dive into. We focused very much on the Bundesliga and the European League in our previous podcast earlier this week. But maybe we should have a look at some of the other domestic leagues and a World Championship draw, which was just made since we last recorded, Alex.
Oh, I'm ready to rant about this draw. Are you ready to hear the rant?
I'm ready to hear. So the draw for the World Championship next year, the Men's World Championship in January, was made. 32 teams, 8 groups of 4. Croatia, Denmark and Norway, the 3 co-hosts. What is grinding your gears, Alex?
And I'm not even going to start with the wildcard system because, wildcards are a thing. Whatever it is, the fine. It's 2 teams out of 32. Just do it. Don't really care. What I will care about is this ridiculous seeding system that they used for the draw. I have no idea what's going on here.
Well, according to Wikipedia, seeding based on the 2023 World Championship.
Yes. Okay. Let's fact check that. Let's fact check that in a second. But there's a combination. There's like the World Championships and the 1.3.2 article of the regulations of the EHF competitions, where there is there's some moving around for cities as well, which is fair enough.
Oh well, that's the difference between seeding and putting teams into groups, right?
It's so starting I won't go through the pots in exact details. I'll just I'll go with pot 1 is fine. It seems fine. It's pretty much the 8 teams that finished in the quarterfinals of the last World Championship, except why is Spain? They're in pot 2. The bronze medalists in the World Championship have somehow landed in pot 2. That's okay. Fair enough. There's some hosting things there. Maybe Slovenia, for some reason, were just put into pot 1.
I think I have the answer. They have the seeding based on the World Championship, i.e. the top 7 teams all came from Europe last time. So they have 7 teams in pot 1. And Africa had a team in the top 8, Egypt. So Africa gets 1 spot. But then it's based on the qualifications. So look at pot 1. It's the teams that finished 1st to 7th in the European Championship, which was the qualifier for the World Championship. And then you go into pot 2 and you see how the teams finish. Portugal, Croatia, Austria, Iceland, Netherlands, Spain. So I think that's why. So it's a mix. You get the places for your continent based on the World Championship finish, but your actual placement depends on how you qualify, i.e. the European, African Championship and all that.
Okay. So what about Italy?
Italy,
who are next in pot 2? Italy
are remarkably somehow ahead of Czech Republic, Poland, and North Macedonia. Is it because they took Montenegro's spot because they beat them? It's like if you beat that team, therefore you take their crown. I think this is literally the thinking.
I think you're getting there. I think this is good.
So if say for example, who are the highest ranked team that could have been knocked out? Probably Austria, right? If Austria were beaten in the playoff for the World Championship, then the team that would have beat them would have been in pot 2. Faroe Islands beat North Macedonia, then they would have been in pot 3. Ahead of them. If an African team beat Egypt in the African final, they would have been in pot 1. And Egypt then remarkably would be down in Africa 2, which is at the bottom of pot 3. It's medieval kingship, Alex.
If you are listening to this, do get the pots. It's to follow it. Then I think I see the logic, and it just.
I mean, it's bullshit, but that is the logic.
It is bullshit. So it also automatically ranks the continents. Yeah. Like, no matter if you are a team like Qatar who have competed at the highest level, Brazil, Argentina, but even that doesn't make sense.
Asia's best team finished in 17th place last time. Therefore, they get the 17th seed, which is top of pot 3. And then South America's top team finished in 18th place. So they're also in pot 3. And then North America had the USA in 20th place. Therefore, Cuba in pot 3.
You're actually blowing my mind here, Chris. You're blowing my mind.
Figured it out.
This is... You've actually figured it out. This is incredible. Incredibly ridiculous system.
I'm glad we're figuring this out as we go. This is not how we plan the opening 5 minutes of the podcast.
But it's all making sense. It's all making sense and no sense at all.
And then plopped in the bottom of it all, after all the actual rankings,
the 2 wildcards.
1, wildcard 2, which really fucks things up for everyone. Particularly in Group A, which is the all-European group of Germany, Czech Republic, Poland, and Switzerland. Where Germany are probably feeling pretty good, and everyone else cacking themselves.
Yeah, and someone like Bahrain, who played so brilliantly in the last World Championship, got a good... Well, they finished 16th. Mm-hmm. Fantastic. And then because they qualified in 3rd place out of their continent, then they've like gained that spot for
someone else,
their continent, but they themselves end up somewhere else. This is ridiculous, but at least there's a logic to it, which is something.
And our friends in USA, we should mention, they found themselves in a very tough group. Norway, Portugal, and Brazil. Yeah. They kind of shot themselves in the foot. We were talking about how smart they were, sending 2 teams playing at the same time. probably little did they know that there was seeding involved.
Exactly.
Not based on how you finished the last World Championship, which, 20th would mean pot 3. That was actually earned for Cuba to take, because they actually showed up at the qualification with a team. So I think, lessons learned all around there.
I do think this has to be broadcast far and wide to all of the nations that are, I don't think anyone knows how this works. So this is a public service announcement for all of the heads of the world handball nations. This is how it works. And as always, Denmark got themselves the easiest draw. It's actually hilarious.
No matter what Denmark do, they will find themselves in a piss easy group. They've even managed to draw the European team with the least experience in Italy, then Algeria and Tunisia. A fun group for everyone else, but it would be losing 44-12 against Denmark and then battling it out for second and third place. I bet the people at the Danish Handball Federation hoping to sell out the Jyske Bank boxing for that first week are not happy. Well,
yeah, they'll still probably sell it out, but it's been maybe this year is the year where people are like,
that's
okay,
enough.
this is enough of this.
Yeah.
The one group of death, I would say, is there's a few good ones, but it's probably Egypt, Croatia, Argentina, and Bahrain for me. That's one of those teams is going to the President's Cup, which is definitely tough. Yeah. Otherwise, there's one weak team in most of the groups.
I kind of looked more ahead already to the main round, and I don't want to dwell on this too much, but where groups come together.
No, Chris, I'm cutting you off. No need. No.
I'm sorry, women's handball fans.
2025 here, and we're in the biggest part of the season right now for handball.
We'll discuss that in December 2024 after the women's.
Exactly.
Okay. Anyway, there was some actual handball being played as well in the last few days.
Yeah, for sure. The quick roundup of the European kind of league playoffs. Interesting enough, Fredericia beat Aalborg to go 1-1 in the championship. Aalborg, who've been very comfortable and confident all season, taken to a decisive third leg. Other news, Veszprém just knocked Szeged to the side in the Hungarian Championship. No real challenge for them. So, they're going to be happy winning that league. For a disappointing season for Veszprém, winning the Hungarian league is still important. There was drama in Norway as Elverum and Kolstad battled it out. And it's quite interesting, for the season, Kolstad were the better team in Norway by far, compared to Elverum. But it really, I think we underestimate the strain on a small squad a full season like that has, and the impact it has in the long run, where Kolstad, which competed across competitions, they had a very thin squad, injuries, and they just, they're not at their peak level. While Elverum had a more straightforward year and really challenged them in the playoffs, but in the end it was Kolstad that sealed the Norwegian Championship and a place in the Champions League next season, which is good news for them.
I was just thinking before the third game, what must the EHF be thinking at this point? Oh no, we have to give one of the upgrades to a Norwegian team.
Yeah, that'd be a nightmare.
Tough enough that we have to give one place in there to them. But if Kolstad, they winning that second game at home as well, it seemed like an amazing event, and would have been a dream finish to the time for Tobias Grøndal as well, who drove them to victory in that second game.
That second game was 41-40 after extra time. Yeah. In a win for Elverum to take it into a decisive third leg. It was insane.
I love it.
It was so good. If we're talking about drama, there's only one place we have to focus in a little bit. And that is Poland, where we saw the most dramatic league final between two teams that we've seen ever. Both, technically, it didn't go to a third leg.
No, there were two victories, both in penalty shootouts.
Two victories, but both in penalty shootouts. We talked about the first leg in a previous podcast where Plot scored a last-second standing but moving foot standing shot to send it straight into penalties. And again, Kielce's penalty woes continued. And then in the second leg, we had... again, this time it was Wisla Plock equalizing at the end. Gregor Fazekas with a great goal, sending it to penalties.
You say a great goal. I mean, it came off the post, and Andy Wolf was so unfortunate to have his left leg where his left leg was. Came off the post, came straight out, hit him in the back of the leg. It wasn't one of those like super quick ones, but it could have maybe been avoided even. But they earned it. And Kielce, though, I mean, they were a goal up in the final minute, a man up. They had everything in their hands, and they still couldn't secure the win. In what I have to say was one of the messiest games of handball I've ever seen. It's like, it was anti-handball. It was really terrible at times. And it's like, of course, you have to really appreciate Płock for what they do to make that. They needed to play that way, but it feels like Kielce were kind of their own worst enemies. They played into the hype of it all. They just let the occasion get to them in all the worst ways and didn't take home advantage for what it was.
I just don't know how Kielce keep losing penalties when they have the best penalty stopping goalkeeper in the world. Andy Wolf, across the season, has a saving rate of 43%. 43%. And that's 3 penalty shootouts that they've lost this season in the Champions League, and then 2 to Płock. And I think you have to applaud what Xavi Sabata has done with Płock and kind of claim top spot in Poland. Really, is like, this team has been scrapping for years. That's their identity. They're the bad boy Pistons, or they'll rough you up. How many red cards and 2 minutes have been exchanged between these two teams? And as you say, it's Kielce that get dragged into it because they're the better team. Yeah. They're full of better players, and I think there's an absolute hatred that has built between these two teams. Not that it was ever really cordial, but
a game that's called the Holy War among fans and journalists, that's says enough.
But there's just a hatred, and there's almost a there's no justice when Kielce come out to play, and I think they've fallen into I say this, but there's Kielce have been on the receiving end of some pretty poor decisions over the last couple of seasons, I would say. So, but they've let that affect them, and they, those images. I'm thinking back to the Champions League where the whole team is falling down and crying of why is it happening to us again? Is an indicator of their mentality in that moment. Yeah. They're not we're going to win it anyway. Yeah. They're just screaming for someone to hear in a dark cave or in a forest, and no one's going to hear them, Paul.
Yeah. And it's not just the 3 this season, but you look back to the final of the Champions League last year, went to extra time 2 seasons ago, again a penalty shootout, where in all of these games they are not being beaten. They're not the worst team. They are the finest of margins, a single hair away from winning each time, except every time they don't. And that is really, really heartbreaking for them. This penalty shootout going to 20 shots. They had 2 occasions basically to win it in the normal before it went to sudden death. 2 massive saves by Mirko Alilovic, and it was Alilovic who saved the third one, the final one on Nahi to win it for Płock. Just like, what a story for them. They may as well just, like, all right, we're going to step away. We're moving to North Macedonia for our next. We're going to Pelister. This is like we've done our job here.
There is so I won't go full conspiracy theory tinfoil hat, but that has been some of the messaging around all this controversy. That Orlen, who's the title sponsor of Wisła Płock, is the title sponsor of the Polish league and a huge sponsor of handball. They're investing more in Płock. There's from probably next season, not quite 24-25, but the names of Melvin Richardson and Torbjörn Bergerud are being discussed as potential rivals, and that is that's a step change for the club. And there has been talk of controversy and conspiracy and all of this, that Wisła Płock is a team that is more favoured in Poland, and I've worked in Poland. Or at least my company has worked in Poland and does, and let's just say that the political dealings in Poland are very.
Is this you, Alex, as somebody who works in wind, renewable energy in wind, talking about an oil company sponsoring a handball league?
Let's just say oil companies are really good lobbyists.
They sure are.
Oil companies can do whatever they want. Yeah. And if that is to get Wisła Płock to win the title, they can probably do it. I'm not saying they are doing it, but they definitely can.
Fantastic.
But no.
Fantastic.
I won't leave it at that. Congratulations to Wisła Płock and Xavi Sabata and everything they've done to build a great club there.
One tiny more thing before we go on to the Women's Final Four preview. More penalty drama in the European Cup final over the weekend, where Olympiacos were beaten by Valur, the first Icelandic team to win a European trophy, Alex. And that looked fantastic. The whole penalty shootout is on the Home of Handball YouTube channel. 7,500 people in the arena in Greece, which is absolutely nuts. Sadly, our friend Savas, despite his 10 goals in the game, was the one to miss the crucial penalty. And a European title for 43-year-old Alexander Pettersson.
Oh, I love it. I saw an image of him breaking through, and I was like, what is going on here?
A 39-year-old Björgvin Paul Gustafsson in goal. And also, friend of ours, any Faroe Islands player, is Alan Nordberg as well, the young winger on that team as well. So Valur, congratulations to them and all our Icelandic listeners. But now, we've teased you long enough, folks. Time for the Women's EHF Final Four preview. We had a chat with Björn Pazen first to speak a little bit about the German team, and then Danijela to go through the rest of the contenders in Budapest. Björn, Danijela, thank you so much for joining. A pleasure to have you here in the week of the Women's Final Four. Before we go into the 4 teams competing, I just want to get a quick feel for the room, and with a few days before Budapest, what are the big headlines for you heading into this weekend, Danijela?
I'm always dreaming about underdogs maybe winning the title, so I would really like to see the German team winning the Champions League maybe on Sunday. For me, that would be the biggest headline, I think, of this Final Four. Because Metz, Jern, Esbjerg are the teams that are usually there. They have been there in the past, so we all know who they are. And with Bittingheim winning the European League 2 seasons ago, for me, it would be like a nice story for the end of the season.
I would say the option one is that never the the favorites win. But the question is, who is the favorite this year? Because nobody is the real. There is no big favorite. Björn lost so many matches. Metz, for me, is always strong until Budapest. And Esbjerg also never won it. So I would say for me, Esbjerg is a slight favorite to win. But as always, the underdogs win. And I would say Bietigheim has nothing to lose. And they have the best potential semifinal to play against Metz. So the headlines, I say, what is possible? You have to see, since 1995, no German women's team had made it to a semifinal of the Champions League. So they made history already, and they have nothing to lose, like a team like GSM Bucharest in 2016 or other teams that played there.
That's why we have you in for the start of this chat, Björn, then to talk a little bit about Bietigheim, because I think it's the team that probably most people know the least about. An incredible journey for them to get here in the first place, all the way down from 6th place in Group A, battling with Danish teams to get through, beating ECAS by 2 and Odense by 2. At the beginning of the season, what kind of chance would you have given this team to get so far?
You have to just see what happened in the last season. They were number 1 after 5 rounds. They had 1-4 and tied 1, and they had 9 points after 5 rounds. And they were even talking about how it is to skip the playoffs. And in the very, very last match, 1 goal was missing for them to make it to the playoffs, because they finished 7th, and they were just passed by Grimm and Brest. So, and they were out. They missed the playoffs after the best start ever of a German team. So this year, the same thing happened again. So they had the best start ever, and then they lost. But in the end, they knew how to make it to the 6th position. And of course, when you start from the 6th position, you at first things, you always have the second leg match away, and you always face the strongest team. So when you then see that ECAS lost the straight qualification for the quarterfinals in the other group in the last round, and Bietigheim had to play against ECAS, and then you play against Odense, so your chances are very limited. But you have a Danish coach who knows everything. So going back to your question, Chris, is at the start of the season, they said the only hope we have is to make it to the playoffs this year, and then everything can happen. If we make it to the playoffs, then we finish this curse that we don't make it to the playoffs. The first time they were in the playoffs was in this COVID season, when all teams made it to the playoffs. So now they have it in their hands. So they showed they did not play against the team like Björn or Metz in the knockout stage. But when you saw before how ECAS and Odense performed, and they beat them at home, and I think that they had not expect to win them, and this was exactly the good thing, the advantage for them. They were not under the pressure to have to go. I would say a team like Odense, never been to Budapest, they needed to go, and maybe in the first leg in Bietigheim they were too much under pressure. So that means that in the end, Bietigheim has no pressure. They didn't have pressure until that moment when they made it to the playoffs. And now they can just go. And look what happens.
Before we let you go then, just 2 players in particular I want to talk to you about. Karolina Kudlacz-Glotz and Xenia Smits, both of whom it feels like have had a second wave in their careers. In Smits' case, with the shoulder injury a few years ago, it seemed like she was going to be designated defender for the rest of her career. Karolina Kudlacz-Glotz has been around German handball, international handball forever. Amazing that they both get this payoff of going to a Final Four with this team.
When we start with Karolina Kudlacz-Glotz, she played in Leipzig. I think she would still play in Leipzig if the club didn't get insolvent. So she was something like the kind of club legend. Okay, then she had to change the club. And with Bietigheim, you see, every year everyone expects she will finish her career. And she said, okay, one more year, and then she's still there. And you see she's the best or the second best scorer in this season. And especially in the combination with Xenia Smits, both used to play, okay, we only can help our club in the defense more or less. So then they start playing an attack again. And with Kudlacz-Glotz, she can play on all back positions, even on the right back. So she's right-handed. She played everywhere. So you have a lot of options when you play with her. And with Xenia Smits, after the shoulder injury, I talked to her several times, said, can you still throw a ball? And she said, oh, not that much. She said, okay, when I finish a counterattack, I can try to make something like a shot. But then sometimes she makes a shot from 8-9 meters, jumps high and scores in the angle of the goal. So officially, her shoulder cannot play attack anymore, what she said. But she said, I'm still good enough. So for me, she's one of the 5 best defenders in women's handball. And with this being in front defender in the one position, she's always good in counterattack. And in counterattack, you don't have to shoot with 120 kilometers. But when you see her playing, I think she's always one of the 5 fittest players. So she's in the form of her life since 2-3 years. So playing for attack and defense. So this is absolutely incredible. And as Danijela mentioned it 2 years ago, she was the MVP of the EHF finals in Viborg. And when you see her playing there or in the national team or with the club, absolutely incredible. And when she stays as fit as she is now, she still can play 5 more years in defense and officially not in attack, but she will score 50 goals a season.
Before we let you go then, your prediction for the weekend?
Final is Esbjerg against Bietigheim.
Okay. And the gold medal too?
The gold medal goes to Esbjerg again. We have the next headline, Nora Merck's 7th Champions League trophy.
That's right. Okay. Thanks so much, Björn, for your input. And
all in Budapest.
See you in Budapest. Take care.
Have a nice day, Björn.
Okay.
Right. Moving on to Bietigheim's opponents in the semi-final in Metz. And 2 previous trips to Budapest for them, losing the semi-final both times in 2019 and 2022. But they've had one hell of a season, Danijela. Could this be a breakthrough for them?
I really think that it could be. Before I joined you, I was thinking about who could be in the finals, who could win it. And I really feel it could be Met's season. They missed Final Four last season and they're really pumped about it. They won Double Crown in France and they won 3 days ago, I think they won a title, they won a cup. So in 3 weeks, they could win everything of this season of the silverware. So I think they're really, really excited and they have an amazing team that performed astonishing this season, especially with Hatado Sako between the posts and Sara Boktit on the line, and not to mention Kristina Jorgensen and a few other players. So for me, Metz is really one of the favorites, if not the favorite for me.
It's incredible. You mentioned the missing out in the Final Four last season. That was under extraordinary circumstances, losing that 6-goal lead at home. A lot has been said about their 3 losses this season. They only had 2 losses last season and still didn't make it to the Final Four, which says a lot about how much of a disappointment that was then. But since then, it's been a big rebuild again for Emmanuel Mayenad. 10 players left over the season. It seems like every season now is a big rebuild for the team, but they have a very nice squad and a real Danish spine as well. When you think of the backcourt with Louisa Beauregard, who's coming to the end of her time there, Kristina Jorgensen is moving on to Djura next season, and Adametta Hansen. So there's a lot of solid international experience there in all positions when you think of the French and the Danish core.
It's true, and I really think that's why they have a shot this season, because few of them are leaving the club and they will not have that structure again next season. But when you see them play, I really felt like this season they had a real team, real connection, especially with Kristina Jorgensen and all the Danish spine that you said. It's just been extraordinary to watch them play. I really feel if they're gonna have their best days in Budapest, it's possible for them. As Björn said, they always have they have amazing season, and then when it's the crunch time at the finals, they disappear somehow. Mm-hmm. So maybe I think this could be really their go-to year for the final trophy.
Does that worry you a little bit about the team? Is that the area that is potentially a weakness, the history against them, or is there any other area in their play that could be exposed?
It could be, because you always think about that. But even this season, even though they won the group phase, you could see their downfall in some moments. I think their downfall could be maybe their defense if it's not really as strong as it could be. And if you don't have Hatado Sako on her best, then Metz is vulnerable because their attack is great. I praise a lot Sara Bokti this season on the line because she scored so many goals. She's in the run for the top scorer. So I think their only vulnerability maybe is their defense.
Yeah.
But if you have Sako on her best day, well, then you don't have to worry about anything.
She's had a lot of good days this season, 36% throughout the year. Yeah, Sara Bokti, 97 goals is astonishing. It just brings me back a little bit to, the French teams just haven't been able to make it happen, whether it's Metz or Brest in recent years. Remarkable that there hasn't been a French team to lift the women's Champions League title. Yeah, looking purely at like the two sets of teams, Metz and Bietigheim, Björn has gone for Bietigheim. He's gone for the underdogs, the vibes, but it looks like an overall clash between them. I can only see one winner. Are you leaning?
I'm with you. But as you said, that's on the paper. When you look at the players, when you look at their whole season, it's clearly Metz. But as we all know, at Final Fours, there's always something going on. There's always underdog magic. It's just 2 games in 2 days. You never know what to expect. But yeah, I'll go with Metz. I know that Björn goes with his fellow German friends, but we have to be a little bit more realistic.
That's an intriguing semi-final for many reasons. The blockbuster is Gjør against Esbjerg. Esbjerg, we can start with their 3rd straight Final Four. Remarkably, they haven't been able to win a game in Budapest yet, which is astonishing. They did get a measure of revenge already. FTC, who beat them in the semi-final last year, they managed to beat them fairly comfortably in the end. In the quarterfinals, yeah. A 7th and last season for Jesper Jensen as the coach before he sticks to the Denmark job. There's been some recent injury worries for the team. Although they won the Danish title last couple of weeks quite comfortably, in the end, there's been times with Christina Breistel has had some injury worries. Reistad played in the final but had a bit of an injury problem before that. Nora Merck as well. Hopefully just a case of them resting them for the final, though, or for the final weekend.
Well, they had some problems already last season too, and the beginning of this season. But I really think it was more of a precaution for the Budapest for them. If they have some small injuries, they're trying to keep them complete for the crucial part of the season. They won both, also Cup. They were 3 days ago, Cup and Championship and Cup also. They were never in the finals at the Budapest, and they lost 2 semifinals. We know how. And for me, with Metz, they are one of 2 teams this season. They were completely, they are playing by the book. They may be sometimes boring, but they're perfect handled by the book. Even their attack, even their defense, they are perfect in every part of the game. And I think we're gonna see Metz Esbjerg final on Sunday in Budapest.
Oh, already jumping ahead there and just discarding poor Gjør.
They have been so good throughout the season that I really don't see them stumbling again after 2 straight seasons not going to the finals. I really think they deserve it also with the team they have, with Nora Mork, with Henny Reistad, with Breistel, you said, with all that team, those players deserves to be in the final for me. Even though Gjør also have amazing players, but they have won it so many times already and being in the finals. I think this could be their 10th final or something like that. So for me, yeah, I would go with Metz Esbjerg final.
The goalkeepers worry me a little bit, maybe more in terms of proving it at the highest level with Anna Christensen and Amalia Milling. They've had decent percentages. I think when we think of this team, it's not strictly about the defense, although they have been able to get a huge defensive player in Katharina Heindel back recently. Do you think that the fact that she wasn't there, kind of anchoring the defense, means that the goalkeeper worries are not as big a worry, or are you also worried about them?
I'm also worried about them. They're not their strongest link of the team, and of course her coming to the club could help them. But you always have defense, and defense should help the goalkeepers, but sometimes the goalkeeper is alone, so you cannot count on your defensive players in front of you if you have counterattacks or fast breaks or something like that. So maybe they're not their strongest link, but the players can play great defense. They show that against Ferencváros, so they can have their fast break and they can impose their rhythm in the attack with their fast breaks. So I think that's their part, that they are the best.
What makes you so confident in them? Comes up against your...
It's for Jer, it's to be or not to be this season. They lost double crown in Hungary. So it's going to be either, like, let's say bad season for them. It's not bad season if you're at the Final Four, but, either they're going to live and give everything for that trophy in Budapest, or the weight of losing both cup and championship in Hungary will be their, like, a problem for them, maybe mentally. I don't know. I don't know how the players are right now, but when you lose both cup and championship, it's not easy, because you know how much it means to the Hungarian fans in Hungary. It's really a big deal. So I don't know if it's going to be a good thing or bad thing for them. I mean, it could be like they rose like a phoenix in Budapest and win it. I just see Esbjerg, I don't know why, but I usually I'm really bad at predicting. So probably the final is gonna be Jer Bittingheim. So
maybe. Well, that also wouldn't surprise some people. I mean, Jer are the only team of the four that have actually won here, and this is the 9th appearance in Budapest. The 8 times they've been before, they've won it 4 times. But it's been a long while. 2019, the last time they won the title here in Budapest. They, looked super comfortable and confident all the way until that second leg at home against Vipers, where they really were scared. It has been a very different story, as you explained so well, in domestically with FTC. Getting over them in both competitions. I mean, the thing that sticks out for me here is, like, there's such an emphasis on the final games for Stina Oftedal, who's going to be retiring, Celia Solberg, who's moving on to Vipers, Nadine Schatzel as well, Anna Gross, all, like, it's going to be such a big thing. And of course, that could be the foundation for this beautiful moment, or it could be an absolute disaster because it's just weighed on them so much.
That's why I said it could be too much weight. Both all of that, they're leaving. They want to do it. When you burn in desire, then something could go wrong. And if you cannot relieve in I don't know, if you're losing by 5, if you don't have enough strength to come back or something, the only thing that could be another help for them is the Final Four is in Budapest on Hungarian ground. It's going to be 10,000 of Hungarian fans, so it could really, maybe that could be a little boost for them. But as you said last time in 2019 and all those things, they were confident throughout the season. They finished first in the Group A, but I don't know. Last few games they played in Hungary, they were not that confident, maybe. Even though
they have such a good team.
They're a perfect team. When you look their positions, like, they have 2 amazing players in each position. It's unbelievable. But it's like PSG sometimes. Something will be missing. I don't know.
Or even closer to home for Jura with Vesprem, there seems to be a similar problem. But what convinced me a little bit more about them was the last 15 minutes of that Vipers game, when they were really on the verge of everything falling apart, and then you had someone like Veronica Christiansen, who hasn't been like a key player for them in terms of the superstar in recent years, because she went away, she had a child, and now she came back and she was an absolute superstar. Solberg came in during the season after her also giving birth, and she's been magnificent since then. And you have just such a nice spread of players and their contributions. Like, you literally could take anyone from Estelle and Zeminko and Kari Bratzadala to Stina Oftedal coming up or Anna Gross. They have so many different options. I guess the question then is whether Per Johannesson and Urs Bregar, who's the assistant coach, can find the right combination, because we've seen the problem when you have so many strong players in these positions. You have to be decisive, right? In your first lineup, deciding who's going to beat Esbjerg, a team that could punish you straight away. And if things aren't going right, to then be brave enough to make the changes that you need, or you overchange it. So there is a lot that can go wrong for this really magnificent and star-studded team.
And Per Johansson, he has also weight on his shoulders because he took over quite recently, we can say.
Yeah.
I mean, so yeah, it's challenging thing for him. I think, as you said, when you start mentioning the names in Jer, it's unbelievable what kind of lineup they have. And as we talked before, that I will always talk about goalkeepers, but Sandra Toft and Silja Soberg, they're amazing, and they could be their slight advantage maybe against Esbjerg if they have their great day. When Sandra Toft also, even when she didn't start the match, when she jumped, I don't know, in 40th minute, she had 4 straight saves that can turn around everything in the match. So for me, as I said, I'm very bad at predicting, so maybe we will see Jer in the final.
Wow.
But I really think that, losing double crown in Hungary is a big thing. It's not, it's not in some countries. Of course, it's nice when you're a champion, but it's not as a big of a deal as in Hungary or Romania and, countries with a huge fan base. So I think it's going to be a little bit harder for them.
It's funny about the predictions being hard and not liking them, or not being good at it, because I've just seen on Instagram, I've been tagged in a post as we're recording, because I was asked this morning by the EHF to give my top 4 or from top to bottom. And I see my predictions have been put in here alongside Anya Althaus, Adrian Costeu, a friend of the podcast, and Courtney Gain, another friend of the podcast. All the other 3 have gone for Jer to be in the final ahead of Esbjerg, whereas you, Bjorn, and I have gone for Esbjerg to be in the final, and everyone then went for Metz to be in the final, with Bietigheim finishing in last place, which is really dangerous. But so mine have been exposed. I have Bietigheim 4th, Jer 3rd, Metz 2nd, and Esbjerg gold. Bjorn has also gone for Esbjerg gold. Esbjerg versus Metz was also your final. Danijela, who's taking it and why?
It's really, really tough choice, because they have, specific game. They play specific. Both teams have their play, both Esbjerg and Metz. I would maybe go, I don't know. I would maybe go with in the Mets. It's just a hunch in that terms. Why? I don't know. I mean, they are both amazing teams. As I said, Esbjerg plays by the book. They play some perfect handball. When they have all their players ready, they're one of the best teams in the world and just amazing. But I think that, when you're playing against a Danish team with a lot of Norwegian players, and then you have in Metz, the Danish Pine we talked about, maybe they will find the right recipe to break down the Scandinavian play of Esbjerg. On
that, Jesper Jensen is a coach for many of these Danish players playing for Metz. Where do you see that helping one side or another? Because they would all know each other very well.
You know what? When I was in Graz at the EHF finals, I talked with girls from Romanian teams that they were playing against each other in the EHF finals, and they said we know each other so well, it's not helping, because you know what to expect from all of them, and it's never a help. It's always it's harder to play against players you know too well, and I agree with them. I don't think that's actually helping when you know the players, because even when you know them and they know you, you know they will try to change something. You will try to change something. You will try to change your shot maybe on 7 meters or something, and it's never a good thing, I think.
And it's because of that I think back to the World Championship last year, and despite Jesper Jensen coaching Henny Reistad for all those years, not knowing and not being able to do anything about the fact that she floated through the air majestically and beat Denmark with that buzzer beater in the semi-final, when it comes down to those situations, it's going to be the same with Esbjerg and Djur, because a lot of players who know each other very well, all those Norwegians and Danes, that it is players like Henny Reistad and maybe to a lesser extent nowadays, but still very possible, Nora Mørk, that could come up with something absolutely magnificent. I mean, everything else has to go the way for them to be in a position to do it. But if they are, then I think that could be the thing to give them gold at last.
But we all know what they're capable of. I mean, they're amazing. I mean, when you watch them play, even their national teams, they are out of this world sometimes. And you said Henny Reistad with that shot. Yeah, I think if that's going to be our final, it's going to be an amazing final to watch for all handball fans.
That's a nice way to finish it, I think. Thank you so much, Danijela, for your contribution.
Thank you, Chris, for inviting me again.
Of course. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you to Danijela and Björn for that. A really nice look at the 4 contenders for the title. And you asked me at the beginning who is the most likely to go on a dynasty of 3 titles in a row, but we're going to keep it more simple for the predictions here at the end. We had a fair bit of Esbjerg, Björn and myself. Danijela has a hunch for Metz, as we heard the rest of the EHF experts all going for Metz or Djur. Where's your alliance this weekend, Alex? Where do you feel it's going?
So going back to that question of Esbjerg, I think if Esbjerg win a title, they get over a big hump, they break through a wall, and they just keep winning. But will they beat Djur? Oh, I don't know. I don't know. I think, again, we're in Budapest. The arena is going to be packed full of Djur fans. There's a whole storyline about Stina Oftedal. And it's, I think Djur beat Esbjerg. I don't know. That's my feeling. That's it. But will Djur go on to win the title? Is another question. Because I do think Metz are... So I think Metz would beat Djur, but I think Esbjerg would beat Metz.
Yes. Yeah.
So that's where my thinking is.
Yeah. Handball math, yeah. No, it's all, styles make fights, as they say in boxing. And the same here.
Yeah, that's where my thinking is, and
commit to something.
We're going Djur Metz final, Metz to win it.
Right, there you go.
I think it's time for a French team to win it.
Yeah, it's been
too long.
It's been never.
Too long.
It's been too long.
Never is too long.
Forever is too long. Time for Metz to win it. Yeah. I think that's... but it's so dangerous that everyone except Björn Pazen has gone for Metz to win the semi-final against Bietigheim. You said you want to be convinced by it. It's the Final Four. I mean, we've seen it time and time again. Nobody is a true outsider at this, and
I don't know how Bietigheim have gotten here, and they just keep I keep writing them off, and they keep going through. And again, it's something weird. They shouldn't be this. They finished 6th in the group. They finished 6th in the group, but they've gained momentum at the right time and produced 2 very, very impressive wins against 2 really good Danish teams. But yeah, I don't think they quite have enough to get past Metz, who have just been very comfortable.
Yeah, you'd imagine so. But time will tell. The Women's Final Four over the weekend. I'll be with you on the mic on EHF TV for all 4 games, and we'll be back next week looking back at the Final Four and looking ahead to the other Final Four in Cologne, the men's one. But until then, from Alex and myself, it's goodbye.